Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Ethos Online, a place where we want to be, belong, and become the very best version of ourselves. And so, again, thank you for joining us. Again, wherever you're from, wherever you are from in the United States, outside of the States, wherever, thank you for being part of this online community. It's been such a privilege to share ideas and share space, really sacred, safe space. And so before we even start, I want to remind you again, this is a YouTube channel. And so on the YouTube channel, please like and subscribe, hit that little bell, and every time that we have a new video, it'll pop up and it'll let you know, hey, we're alerting you to a new video. And so make sure you subscribe to that. And also, please consider donating. It's getting to the point where it's the end of the year. You want some tax write-offs. We're a tax-deductible organization. So please consider donating to www.ethos-church.org/donate. So please consider doing that. That would be really helpful. We do all these blogs, podcast videos. It's really helpful to have you supporting and helping continue this ministry. So anyways, we have been continuing in this series over a new way to be human, which is basically the teachings of Jesus on the Mount. And so many people will call this the Sermon on the Mount, right? But again, sermon today, I think that detracts from the idea of what it really was. Jesus is essentially telling a bunch of people on this mountaintop, he's telling them this is the way to be human. This is the way to live fully. This is the way to live life more abundantly. And again, just to recap, if you were a Jew and you were hearing someone expand about the law, talk about the law and kind of pull really beautiful little pieces away from it, you would immediately correlate Jesus with Moses. Again, Moses goes up on the mountain, lays down the law, right? And again, laying down the law was actually a really beautiful thing. It was a gift. Today we kind of look at the law as a negative thing, right? But back then, it's a beautiful way in which we can navigate life better. And so again, the law is basically a way to navigate life harmoniously with other people, with community, even with myself. And so one of my favorite quotes we're going to keep going back to over and over again is this one. The Sermon on the Mount is actually a deeper critique into the heart of the law. It reclaims the beauty of living life in harmony. Again, the Sermon on the Mount, one of the most beautiful pieces written. It's awesome. And for that time and that culture, the people living there, again, they had just lost their temple again. It was just burned to ashes, and they just watched as thousands of their people were murdered there in the city. Anyone who couldn't run to the hills was killed, and that was mothers, daughters, sons, old, pregnant people. It was all people, and so it was a terrible, terrible loss for them. And the question they're asking is, what happens now? How do we respond? Where is God? We were promised life more abundantly. Now what? And so again, Jesus steps up and he says, here's the law again. Here's the promise. Here's what it looks like to live fully. And so in the beginning of this whole thing, you begin to get these blessings that are shared. And so we went over a couple blessings the last couple weeks. This time, we're going to move into more of these ashrei. Happy are you, fortunate are you if you do this. And so the next one we're going to talk about is this one. And I think this one, many people get a misunderstanding from in our culture, because this word, this idea, it's not one that we value much in our culture. And so here it is, Matthew 5:5. It reads like this: "Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth." Blessed are the meek. In reality, the writers are actually borrowing from Psalms. Psalm 37, "But the meek shall inherit the earth and shall delight themselves in the abundance of peace." And so again, you can see the writers are toying with a lot of Moses and Psalms and David, Isaiah. They're bringing it all together to share this message to a people who are really desperate for some hope. And so the message again, meek. Blessed are you if you are meek. And so in our culture, meekness would be considered wimpy, right? I love that picture. Blessed are the wimpy, like blessed are the weak. Again, in our culture today, with so much about economics and lift yourself up by your bootstraps and all this power, strength. That's all Avengers. All of this, it's all about strength. It's all about finding your inner strength, being your hero, being the guy that walks into a room and just kicks ass. That's what we value in our culture. But Jesus, he flips it upside down. He always does. And he's again quoting from the ancients, and he's saying, no, if you want to inherit the earth, if you want to live at a place of being high, of being of importance, inheriting something good, if you want to be in that place, then you have to have the value of meekness first. What a weird concept, right? And so is Jesus essentially saying you should be wimpy? Well, here's the word. Here's the word for meekness. It's praus. And in the Greek, it means forgiving, kind, but then there's a picture. There's always a picture with the Hebrew and the Greek. And so the picture is this. It's a picture of someone being gentle in the face of an insult. So it's someone coming to you and saying something really terrible to your face, and it's you not reacting how maybe you normally would. It's not getting red face. It's not getting angry. It's not punching them in the throat, right? It's turning and looking at them with love. That's what meekness was for them. And again, even when I say it like that, it almost brings me a little bit of peace. Does that to you, I wonder? Like when you've been insulted, when you've experienced something bad, and someone has done you wrong, every time that we have responded in it's never a good feeling, is it? But when you can breathe, like we talked about a couple of weeks ago, breathe, take it in, and respond kindly, meekness, something different happens. And so think about this. The Israelite people, again, they are people who over and over and over again, they get their temple destroyed. They're a nomadic people who are wandering, and essentially they're everyone's kind of kicking boy, right? They're everybody's whipping boy. Kicking boy, that's weird. Whipping boy. And so what you get over and over again is they continue becoming captive to all these other empires. And so the question, of course, is they've had violence thrown on them. They've experienced loss. And the question they're always asking, how should we respond? And so when you read the Bible and you pick out some of these epic, heroic stories and heroes, if you are a Jew, you find yourself in these characters. And you will find the characters that are the most heroic are the ones that are acting with meekness, right? So think about this. Joseph, just like Israel, he's mistreated, right, by his brother nations. Joseph, the many coats, right? He's falsely accused. He goes into Egypt. He's falsely accused of messing with Potiphar's wife, right? And then he's unjustly imprisoned. He has over and over again negative things happen to him. And again, it's not his fault. And he could be angry. He could sit in the prison cell. He could just bash on the empire, his brothers and sisters, all of that. But what does Joseph do? He responds lovingly. He actually finds a way to help his accusers. He actually builds up the empire that is holding him captive. And again, that's the message. Again, it's a beautiful metaphor. When you start looking historically for a guy named Joseph, you might find it a bit difficult, right? But if you understand the deeper metaphor, whether he's a real or not, literal or metaphor, you understand the deeper principle behind it is when we experience brokenness and loss and destruction, when we respond lovingly and build others up, we find a place on high, right? We experience an inheritance. And so every character you can see, all of the epic ones, Daniel and his three friends, right? Over and over again, mistreated by authority, falsely accused, unjustly imprisoned, sentenced to death. All of this happens to them. But again, what happens to Daniel and his friends? Yeah, they rise up. They rise up. They experience an inheritance. It's beautiful. Jacob. Again, Jacob, the deceiver, right? He's at the very lowest. He follows the guidance of mom, which was probably not the best, but it turns out good for him. He's mistreated by authority. He's deceived by his father, right? 7 years he works, still doesn't get the wife he thought he was going to get, has to work another 7. Again, chased by his brother. Terrible things happen, but what happens to Jacob? Yeah, he becomes Israel. He's given a new name. He's given an inheritance. It's beautiful. And so when you look at the whole Bible that way, you begin to see over and over and over again every one of these characters, whether it's Abraham, Moses, any of the prophets, right? When you look at the deeper stories behind it, it's a message to Israel over and over again. These people are writing these stories for a purpose. Again, not historical. They're not writing to keep their history. They're writing to share a message to a people who are broken and hurting. And the message is when we respond, when we live lives of meekness, when we can turn and love our neighbor, but also our enemies, that's when we experience inheritance. That's when we experience good things. And so Peter ends, he says this, and I just love it. So I'm just going to quote him directly. He says, every epic story and character in the Hebrew scriptures is Israel miniaturized. Yeah, every story, right? How they respond to injustice is what separates the good stories from the great ones. Isn't that awesome? Yeah, the very best stories, the ones that they continue to gravitate toward, the ones that are told over and over again around the campfires, those are the stories where they act lovingly, they respond in a way that essentially gives them the upper hand, and they do it in a restorative, loving way. Those are the stories. Those are the ones that bring this beautiful identity for the Jewish people. It's fantastic. And so when the Jewish stories, when they say, when Joseph and others, when they wait patiently, they get an inheritance. But when they respond eye for an eye, when they respond with hate, injustice, they experience destruction. They lose the very thing they wanted. They lose the very thing they desired. And so, again, borrowing from the psalmists, again, this is the message Israel's given over and over again. Rest in the Lord. Wait patiently for him. Do not fret because of him who prospers in his way, because of the man who brings wicked schemes to pass. Cease from anger and forsake wrath. Do not fret. It only causes harm. It only causes harm. And again, what a brilliant message for a people who over and over again have experienced brokenness because they continue to fret, continue to take matters in their hands. When they simply chose to respond with love, it changed the narrative. And so I want you to think about this. Maybe even close your eyes or maybe just look at the slide. Ever try to take matters into your own hands and you essentially made things worse? Like, think now on that time. You tried to do this. You tried to respond in anger. How did that work out for you? What happened? Because again, for Israel, for these Jewish people, especially in the first century, right? After the temple's destroyed, when the Jesus message begins to be written, these people are hurting and they're asking, how do we respond to Rome? And the message of Jesus here in this fifth verse of these blessings, if I can rephrase it for you, it would be like this. A gentle response to unkind actions will reap larger rewards. If we can turn and respond lovingly, when we can turn the other cheek, we inherit the kingdom. We inherit the earth. That's such a beautiful, beautiful picture. And so again, we talk about these ideas theologically. We talk about the Bible narratives. But if we don't talk about how to actually live them out, then it's kind of worthless. And so, of course, we're going to talk about how do we do it? How do we do this? Because again, it's a great idea when someone's yelling in your face and they're just vitriol all over you. What do? Because it's so easy to just go back to old patterns. But how do you actually live this thing out? And so one of the people I really respect, Diane Barth, she's a psychotherapist, psychologist. She says a couple things I just love. And so she has these steps to responding to hurtful people. And I think you'll enjoy these. So she says, number one, when someone hurts you, when someone responds or says something really negative or does something really negative, she says the very first thing we need to do is we need to just do this. Breathe. Just breathe. Take a moment to breathe, to calm your nerves before you respond. If you can do that, first off, it's very unsettling. If you are someone and you are angry and you're spitting all of this like verbal vomit all over someone, and you see someone close their eyes and just go, and then look at you. For me, that's someone who's in control. For me, that's telling someone this message that, hey, look, your words, they're hurtful, and I'm going to take a moment because I don't want to say something negative like you did, right? You just took control just by simply breathing. She says, breathe. The next thing she says is make sure you read the situation carefully. Read it carefully. Take time to consider what triggered the person in the first place, right? Again, understand where they're coming from. And again, it doesn't condone the behavior, but it does help you understand so you can give a better response. So again, take time, evaluate the situation. You're not mad at me, you're mad at your dad, right? Whatever the thing is, you're having a really terrible day, you're taking it out on me. Got it. Now I want to talk about it, right? That's a brilliant way to respond. Another way she says is use your words. Use your words rather than jumping into a fist fight or whatever. Don't get reactionary. Use your words and let your words be calm and let your words be positive. Anytime you begin to delve into the negative with your words or your actions, it creates a bigger and bigger conflict. Use positive words. Use your words. And then I like this one, find the deeper issue. Again, find a way to talk about the deeper issue going on by asking questions. Hey, man, did your morning go okay? How are things at home? Man, I heard you lost your dad a couple months ago. How's everything going? Again, when you ask the question, it shifts the whole thing. It causes them to remember they're human, but also they're going to remember you're human, right? And we'll get to the human thing. And last one, I love this. It's not your circus. It's not your monkey. It's not your circus. It's not your monkey. The issue is more than likely not about you. It's probably their issue. And so whatever you do, she says, don't take it personally. It's their issue. It's their problem. They're just reacting in a really negative way. And you have the power, you have the choice to choose to react differently. And so choose to react differently. Not your circus, not your monkey. Such a great, great motto. I love it. And so all of this, Jesus shares, again, it's just one line, right? The meek shall inherit the earth. The meek. And so, again, for the Jewish people, their goal, their end game, right? Avengers theme there. Their end game, like where they're moving toward, is not the destruction of the world. It's not fire and brimstone, right? That's modern day Christianity, different sects to the right. That's not their message. Their message was, we want to find repair for the world. Tikkun olam. We want shalom, nothing missing, nothing broken. And for the Jewish people, they found over and over again the way to tikkun olam, the way to peace was through kindness, charity, good deeds. It was through turning the other cheek. It was learning to be meek in the face of anger and hate. That's how you inherit the world. And so again, in the words of Jesus, a gentle response to an unkind action will reap larger rewards. You will inherit the earth. And so this week, my hope for you is that you might find ways to practice this, because we all do. We all face it. And so maybe in the middle of maybe the disruption between you and your partner or a boss or whatever the thing is, you might take a moment and just breathe and remember these beautiful words of Jesus. The meek will inherit the earth. I hope you enjoyed this. I have so much fun with this. Please consider donating to ethos-church.org/donate. Keep this thing going. We have had so much fun with this series. We're going to continue it. It's going to be awesome. And if you are interested in joining us as a community on the 1st and the 3rd of every month, the first week and the 3rd week of every month, please email me at tonywerfel@gmail.com. And we're going to connect you, because it's so much fun when we join together with people all over the United States and we talk about things we're deconstructing and reconstructing. We talk about our doubts, our fears, our pain, our blessings. We talk about all of it. And it's such a cool experience. So please consider doing that as well. And of course, before I let you go, subscribe, subscribe, subscribe. Please subscribe. Keep this going. Share it as often as you can. We love you, and I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did. There is so much power in the words of Jesus, and this is the most popular of all his teachings, the Sermon on the Mount. And so as we continue going through it, I hope you become a better and better human being, and you begin to live life more and more abundantly. Everyone take care. Love you. Talk to you next week.